So we had to decide how we're going to go about making a choice if we were going to make that choice. And she and I talked about, what we wanted to look like once this move or this change in our lives took place. And I kind of pointed towards Stephen Covey and his guidance that we should begin with the end in mind. And we actually did this. We sat and talked about what we wanted to look like, what we wanted our lives to look like, if you want to put it that way, at the end of a process like this. We had downsized before. We had gone from a larger home to a smaller home and done the things that are associated with that. But this right sizing, that's why we call it this, was something different. It was more than just shedding ourselves of goods and reducing our footprint on the planet. We wanted to talk about how we wanted to live life after this change took place. So that was kind of where we started, and then we determined that we were going to right size this time, not just downsize. And candidly, we wanted to make this decision for ourselves. We have children nearby who we love dearly and who love us, and I know that if the situation came to pass where someone had to make a lifestyle decision for us, they would do the right thing. But we wanted to make that choice for us. We wanted to decide where we wanted to live and how we wanted to live. So that sort of went in the column where we said we're gonna give this a try, and we're gonna move ahead with this and see where this takes us. And we had to decide: are we going to buy a new home if we move, or are we going to rent? Frankly, buying didn't have the appeal that it once had. As I mentioned before, the notion of maintenance and upkeep, that simply wasn't something I wanted to contend with. But we had not rented for more than 50 years, and did we want to really get back into that state of affairs? I mean, let's be candid. An inconsiderate neighbor, it can be a chore in any environment, but what if you're in an apartment and that inconsiderate neighbor lives upstairs over you or lives next to you? How does that affect things? So that was an issue we had to consider, and we had to compare the costs of owning versus renting. And our realtor helped us a great deal here. She said she gave us a homework assignment. She said, I want you to go around your house and list everything you've done to this place during the time you've been here and what it cost you. And we did that, and that was a real eye opener. Over the time that we had lived there, we had put on a roof, we had worked on the air conditioning and heating system, put in a stone patio, we had painted the place, we had landscaped the foundation work, we had put in new floors. And these are things that, at least for us, we always consider them sort of sunk costs. You have the work done, you pay for it, and you move on. But when you stop and total it all up, oh my goodness, the amount of money we had put into keeping that place the way we wanted to keep it, that was a real as I said, a real eye opener for us. And then we wanted to project our costs, what it would cost if we rented versus where we were. In a house, we had the mortgage, we had the taxes, we had an HOA. Actually, we had two HOAs. We had the small HOA, Homeowners Association, in our community where we lived, and the larger HOA in the larger community, which we were part of. We had an alarm system, we had electricity, we had water, we had city sanitation, of course, the phone, the TV, and the internet. These are all costs that are associated in the way we calculated them for staying in our house. And what about the cost of renting? Well, we'd have rent and the phone, the TV, and the internet. So the cost of those two things was pretty remarkable when we laid them out that way. And a point to make here is, if you consider doing this, you might want to be sure to consider what your rent includes. What when you pay rent monthly, what sort of things do you get for that? Avenida, as I understand it, provides breakfast 6 days a week, and utilities are covered. And so these are things that you want to be sure to talk about if you decide to follow the path that Bonnie and I followed. We also needed to decide if we wanted to live in another state or stay near family. And if you're like us, there are a lot of people, a lot of places tugging at your sleeve saying, come visit us, come stay with us. We have everything you'd like here in our little corner of the world. And we looked at some of those in other states, but the prospect of having to go through all the governmental changes in terms of taxes and driver's licenses and all the things that go along with that, we said, man, I'm not sure that's where we want to go. We wanted to stay near family. So that weighed heavily in our final decision. So we decided that we were going to rent, given all I laid out here a moment ago, and that we were going to stay in Fort Worth, where, as they say, the West begins. It's a community we've always enjoyed since we moved here, and hasn't been a disappointment at all. And Fort Worth is where we decided to locate. And then, of course, we had to decide what sort of rental properties, because there are a lot of them out there. Around us, there are a number of lake communities that have homes for rent, and very attractive and very comfortable. But I'm not sure we wanted to move into a privately owned home and rent there. We wanted something, pardon me, that would be permanent, they're relatively permanent. We didn't want to get settled in and have the owner of the home say a year from now, listen, I've got to move back in, or we're going to sell the place. We wanted to avoid something like that. There are rental properties that target young professionals and families. We weren't sure that this would be the environment that we would be most comfortable in, but we decided to check it out anyway. Because of I mentioned before, the growth in population around here, young professionals are a very highly targeted market. And we looked at some of the places that, are places that young professionals are attracted to, and types of activities and so on, just weren't things that we wanted to, take on. We wanted something that would be quiet and comfortable. There are choices among things called continuing care communities that some of you may be familiar with. And these are very nice if you're interested in something that, takes you through various stages of life, from independent living to assisted living to, in some cases, even hospice care. We looked at those, very, very nice operations, but not something that we felt we'd be interested in at this point in our lives. And then we came across these things called 55 and up active adult communities. And when we first came across those, I thought, yeah, that's got to be false advertising. These resort style amenities and things that they provide for you, and the types of apartments that they have. And we looked around and we looked at the groups or places that fell within that category, and frankly, we were smitten. These things that they advertise, at least in our experience, are very attractive, and things that were attractive to us. So we decided that that's where we're going to move. We were going to move into a 55 and up active adult community, and I'll tell you the results of that here in just a couple of moments. So there was our decision. We had made that choice. We were about to move, and we're happy. Of course, we had one little obstacle we had to overcome. We had to sell our house. The realtor suggested when she listed it, we hope it goes quickly. And she got her wish. Our house sold in one day. And we were ecstatic that the house had gone so quickly. And then we learned we had 30 days to close. And our euphoria quickly turned to reality. We realized we had a lot of work to do and not much time to do it. So we had to get to work. As we went down that road, I thought of the old metaphor about how do you eat an elephant? Well, you eat an elephant one bite at a time. And that's how we went about this process of making this change from our house to an apartment. We took it on one bite at a time. And the things that we did sounds counterintuitive, but we actually started out by planning, factoring in time for rest and relaxation. You remember the old days when we used to go out to the movies and go out in the restaurants? And you remember those days not so long ago? Well, we did that. We would go out to the dinner once in a while. We go to the movies. We would actually factor in time to relax, watch a program on television. I know Bonnie and I know me, and if we had decided to do this nonstop, we would have burned out about day 4. So we actually had to plan time for relaxation, for rest. And then we actually did make a list. I still have it here. Uh, we made a list of everything that had to be done. And then when new things arose, we'd add them to the list and we'd check them off as we did them. Not only did it give us a way of keeping track of what we had completed, it actually showed some progress too. Yeah, we're actually moving ahead with this, and we made that list, and we did keep track of it. This is probably where we spent the bulk of our time as we made this transition. That is dealing with that stuff that we had collected over our more than 50 years together. And what we did was we essentially broke those things down into four categories: things we were going to take with us, things that we were going to give away, things that we would donate, and things that we would simply discard. The things that we brought with us were furniture, obviously, and things essential to life. Our dishes and cookware and things of that nature, clothing, and where we moved, the folks were very, very helpful. We were able to come in and take measurements so we could calculate, okay, this will fit here, this will fit there. So we knew which furniture we were going to bring, and which then allowed us to determine things that we wouldn't be bringing with us. So once we established what we were going to take with us, then we decided, what are we going to give away? Now we had to work on that. And as I mentioned, we have three children, and frankly, they were surprisingly very helpful with this. We gave each of our three children a different colored pad of sticky notes, and we said, okay, except for the things we're taking with us, go around the house and put a sticky note on everything that you think that you would like to take. And that worked remarkably well. These are things that we had affection for, we had brought with us for many years. And now that many of these things are in the homes of our children, we're able to see that other folks have affection for those things. And when we go to visit, we're able to see how much they enjoy things that we always enjoyed. So there was a sense of the real continuation of things there for us. We had, over the time we had traveled, we had a number of prints and uh, photographs and so on that we had put on the wall and framed. And our daughter is a librarian at a grammar school here in the area, and she took some of those posters and actually put them up in her library. So the next time you're at Houston Elementary School in Plano, Texas, stop in the library. You can see our posters hanging on the wall in our daughter's room in there. I have a gun closet that my grandfather made back in New York in the 1920s. I had always carried it with me. No room for it here, but it fits perfectly well in my son's house, which is, a great. It's a reward to us to be able to see those things that we enjoyed being enjoyed by them. Came time to donate things, and one more item before I move to donation. We had we went through a period of our lives. Maybe some of you can identify with this. That we decided to collect chickens. The chicken sculptures, and we had 35 ceramic, wood, or metallic roosters and chickens all over the place. And our kids were very decolleté, very kind. They said, well, I appreciate the offer, but no thanks. It doesn't fit our decorating style. So we put that in the donation category, and Goodwill wound up with 35 various forms of barnyard fowl that they could then move on to other people. But we donated a lot of stuff. I can recall vividly, look, we had a van at the time. We loaded the van and took a bunch of things over to Goodwill. And this very nice young gal helped me unload the vehicle, and we got a receipt, and we went home and loaded the vehicle again, went back the next day, and the same gal looked and she said, I think we have your whole house. And I can understand why she would think that, because we had so much stuff that we were in the process of giving away, donating. And then finally, the category known as discard, just getting rid of things entirely. Old Christmas decorations, bits and pieces of lumber, things that just had collected dust over the time we were there, and we just never did anything with them. We discarded those things, and luckily we lived in a city where the city sanitation folks had a very nice policy where they would come and pick up things that you can't put out in the regular trash, uh, things like paint and lawn chemicals and things like that. Made an appointment. They came, picked them up, took them. Those things were gone as well. And when we got done with this process, although it can be challenging, uh, the feeling we were left with was a feeling of catharsis. I have a friend who he and his wife did about the same thing about the same time, and he uses a different word. He called it liberating, to be able to lighten one's load, to be able to move on past those things that we had hauled along with us over the years that we had been together. A couple of particular categories of things that we think deserve special attention, excuse me, financial documents. You can't just put those things out at the curb. So we had collected a lot of the documents that we were going to get rid of. We kept the things that tax documents that you're obliged to hold on to, but others we put once we collected them, put them in a cardboard box and took them actually to a commercial shredder and watched them being destroyed. You don't want to just put those out at the curb and have those be picked up and carried off. And then a thing that causes a lot of people heartburn is the notion of family photographs. We had a huge tub of pictures from years and years gone by, some of them so old that no one knew who was in the pictures, but we kept hauling them around. And we had over the years put together groups of photos and given them to each of the kids, but we still had this huge collection that seemed just to be nothing more than a dead weight. And so finally we told the children, listen, no hard feelings if you don't want to do this, but we're just simply not going to be able to carry these around anymore. So I'd like to offer them to you. And luckily, our three children stepped into the breach, and they did take those photographs. Now they are the custodians of that bit of family history. But as I said, I know that can be difficult for people, but for us, it was the way to go. If you have the time, a garage sale or an estate sale can be extremely helpful. And we've done those in the past. They're always kind of a fun neighborhood way to get rid of your junk and buy other people's junk. But in this case, it just didn't. We didn't have the time to do it. We didn't. I couldn't see the utility in spending a couple hours dickering over the price of a garden hose when I had a lot of other things that needed to be done. But garage sales and estate sales, and you can hire folks to do that for you if you have the time and the interest in doing that. There's a book that I came across a while back that I became fond of. If you can get past the title of the book, it's a good reading. The book is called The Gentle Art of Swedish Death Cleaning by Margarita Magnusson. And she says something that resonated with me, especially since what we had gone through was so recent. She said, and this makes sense, each of us at some point we'll have someone else going through our stuff to decide what to do with these things. Keep this, get rid of that. And she said, why wait? Why wait and burden other people with having to do what we can do ourselves? And her position is that we should be doing those things for us, making these things, go the way we want them to go now, rather than wait till later when someone else has to go through and make choices that we might not like to have made on our behalf. So if you can get past that title, it's not a bad read. Now it came time, once we had gone through this, to make the move, and we decided that if we're going to do it, one thing was certain: we are not doing it ourselves. We had done that for years. Anybody remember when U-Haul had that motto on the side of their trucks, adventures in moving? You notice it's not on the side of the truck anymore. I think even U-Haul decided that it wasn't quite as much an adventure as they thought it was. So we decided we're just not going to do it ourselves. We were going to find somebody to do it for us. And there are a lot of options out there. There's a category of mover known as senior move specialists. These are especially appealing if someone has to move and they're not crazy about having to move. So what they'll do is they'll set up the new place so it looks almost identical to the place that has just been left behind. And they have a lot of things associated with that they'll do for you. We looked at them and said, I don't think we need that, that particular, a group. But concierge movers, these are groups that will allow you to choose to have them do this or that or the other thing. And for us, that worked really well. We found one that was excellent. They were economical. They sent two guys over the day before we moved. They packed up everything. And when I say everything, I mean everything. My wife, Bonnie, had taken off her shoes during the day to walk around barefooted. And when it came time to leave the house, she looked around, her shoes were gone. And luckily, the movers remembered which box they had put them in. So we were able to retrieve her shoes so we could move on. The next day, they sent three guys who picked up everything, packed it. We walked around, made sure everything was in the truck, and they were great. They went to the new place, unloaded perfectly. All the furniture fit just the way that we had planned that it would. They moved everything in. They unboxed everything, took the boxes, and we were done. A couple things that we made sure to move ourselves. Sensitive documents, wills and so on. Our computers, our electronics, backing up everything before we did it, of course. Food, houseplants, some of those things, federal rules prohibit movers from moving. But for the most part, they took the things that needed to be taken. And I can't say enough about these folks. If we ever have to move again, they'll be our first call. They were terrific. They even gave us the phone number of the team leader if we ever had a problem to call him. And they were superb. And so now we were home. We were where we wanted to be, and it is our home. And do we like it? Well, we've just started our 5th year here. I guess that kind of speaks for itself. But the verdict, after having done this for us, is pretty simple. The verdict is that the decision was a good one for us. We're in a quiet environment where we are, very comfortable. We have space that fits our needs perfectly. We have a separate office, which is where I'm sitting now, and high ceilings and all the accoutrements that we could hope for. Where we are is maintenance-free and free maintenance. On the few occasions when we've had to ask to have something taken care of, it's taken care of quickly. It's taken care at no cost, and the best part is somebody else does the work. If something has to be taken care of, this maintenance crew does it, and they do it extremely well. We have a plethora of new friends in our age demographic. Great folks that live near us, and we've become friends with them, and a range of activities that are available. Naturally, as every other compartment of life, the pandemic has changed things and slowed things, but a lot of things still go on. A lot of stuff takes place over Zoom electronically. In fact, I'm going to have to hurry this along because this afternoon is Taco Wednesdays. I've got to go downstairs and pick up our tacos. This is Grab and Go Wednesdays. I'm joking about that, but there's still things that take place here that remind us how delighted we are to be where we are. This is a secure location where we are. We're near shopping that we find comfortable. I mentioned the doctors that we were so enchanted with where we lived before. Well, as luck would have it, that doctor's group has a branch 10 minutes from us, and excellent doctors, excellent hospitals nearby if that need comes to pass, labs and so on. So we fell into a really good place there. Our church is nearby, and we've been married a long time. This is the closest we've ever lived to our parish, and it's 5 minutes away, literally. And that was just pure serendipity, but it's a good thing, and we're very happy with that connection as well. I've made a, a number of friends here. One particular fellow who's a friend of mine, he and I were sitting and talking one day about the process of going through what we went through, that is going from a house to where we are now. And my friend was saying that, he and his wife went through some of the same steps. He said in the house he lived in, he said he would sit on the back porch and he looked out from the porch. He said, when I looked out, all I saw was things that needed to be done. And boy, that made sense to me. Looking out and seeing things that needed to be taken care of. So we can go out on the patio here now, out on the balcony, and I can look out and I can see the walking path, and I can see the putting green. If I look sharply to the left, I can see the pool, and that's what I see. I don't have to look at things that need to be raked or trimmed or painted or taken care of. That's the world that we're in now. And the one thing that Bonnie and I ask ourselves now is, why didn't we do this sooner? Why did we wait as long as we did? And yeah, we're very happy to be where we are, doing what we are, and I'll be happy to take any questions that you might have. Kendall, you want me to show the information on the? Yeah, there it is. The places
Sure.
that.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. I hope everybody enjoyed it. You've got a number of questions here. I am going to go through a few of them. Some of them have some similarities and commonalities, but we did want to share that here we have a number of Avenida communities across the country. And you can see that list here. So if there's any here that you're interested in, please reach out. And then I think we also have another slide that shows our upcoming event. If you enjoyed today's, on the 10th of February, we have another event that we're going to be doing a webinar with Janet Zapala, who is a television news journalist and cookbook author. She's a certified nutrition consultant, and she's going to be taking us through a really fun recipe, and you can shop for the items ahead of time and then also cook along with her. So we're looking forward to that one. But let's go back to Dan for a second. Dan, there was a number of questions about why you guys decided not to sell any of your items. Why did you guys decide to donate or just give them to family members? Or there was at least 3 or 4 people that asked that question.
Yeah, excellent question. As I mentioned, one of the things that restricted us in that regard was time. We did sell some things. In fact, the folks that bought our house bought a lot of the things that were maintenance related. The step ladder, things of that nature. Some of the lawn equipment, but for the most part, we just didn't have the time to sell. If we had big, antique, valuable furniture, likely would have been a different matter. But for us, it was more a function of time than anything else. And that question has come up at other sessions where I've spoken, and people say, "Well, why don't you do garage sales or estate sales?" That's why I added that to the slides, because that is a good option. But for us, the time just got in the way of that.
Right. And you did answer, thank you, Dan. There was a question about, how expensive was it to move? And I know that Joyce, you asked that question and then said, realized that he did not move across country. Of course, you had done that previously, but I guess if you're downsizing or right sizing, you don't have as much to move. So that helps save on your costs there. Let's see, and you did mention that you were keeping some of your furniture, that you guys did keep some things. So that was part of your right sizing. Another question was, let's see, what are the things, this was from Sandy Young, what are the things you can't do when you rent as far as making the house your own?
Good question. What can't you do? I guess you can't knock down walls and put in entrance ways that you might be able to do in a house. I guess there might be limits on how you would paint inside, but well, at one of the sessions, somebody was thinking of moving, and he said, "Well, he's a woodworker, and he has all sorts of tools that he wonders if he'd be able to use in a in his apartment. And I think noise issues, from a log splitter might be a bit of a a bit of an inconvenience for your neighbors. But uh, I I frankly can't think of it. I mean, you couldn't change any of the air con. Gosh, that's a good question. I don't know. We haven't really encountered that.
Yeah.
Things have been so comfortable, so well managed for us that it hasn't come up.
And you're able to hang your own drapery, your own art. You're able to make it your home with
Yeah,
those types of things, right?
yeah,
So,
yeah. Thanks
okay.
for thanks for that. In fact, we
Yeah.
hired a someone to come in, a handyman, to actually put the draperies up, and we do have art on the walls and so on. And people here have been, the staff has been so accommodating. I can't think of anything that would be out of bounds, but I, I imagine there would be some things, but I'm sorry I can't come up with them now.
Yeah, no problem. I had another question from Les Moiser. He wanted to know, have you made plans for aging beyond your 55 plus community when declining health is an issue?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. As I said, there are some places that we looked at that do have those sorts of options. Um, Even here, there are different size apartments. We have one of the larger ones, but if if the unfortunate comes to pass at some point, and we're down to just either Bonnie or me, uh, the place where we are has an option for either one of us to downsize to a smaller place without any restrictions that come from a lease and so on. But there are places around that do have those sorts of options available, where you can go from one level of care to the next. But at this point, we haven't. It's not something that we feel we have to gravitate toward. But if we do at some point, they are there.
Great, thank you. And of course, that's everyone's individual situations of too. So let's see. We had a question about pets, which I know that Avenida's communities are pet friendly. And I don't know, Dan, for sure that you could answer this exactly about pet restrictions, but I know that the community you live in is also pet friendly.
Yeah, it is. We don't happen to have a pet here, but a number of our neighbors do, dogs and cats. I think there are breed restrictions, perhaps maybe size, and I think there's a fee that you pay to have a pet, but that's this is pet friendly. Yes.
Yes. And then another cost question. Sandy Young had a question about what was the cost for those concierge movers that you mentioned? And I know, there'll be different prices throughout, the country, but do you recall how much that cost you? Was that expensive?
Uh, I don't recall the figure, but it was not expensive. It was surprisingly reasonably priced, and particularly because of the care they took and the way they went about it. Uh, this particular outfit, I'll get their name. It's called Black Tie Moving. They were excellent. And as you mentioned, Kendall, we did move cross country some years ago, and that was a very expensive undertaking. But to move, it was 40 miles that we moved, and it was uh, it was very reasonable, and we would do it again in a heartbeat.
Okay, great. Let's see. This question is probably more for Avenida, so we may have to get back to you on this one unless Brigitte or someone else could answer this question. Do you have generators or power support when the area loses electricity?
Yes, there are generators.
Thank you. Easy enough.
Mhm.
Diane Evans had a question for you, Dan, too. She wanted to know, are you physically active? What are your daily physical activities? Bike riding, pickleball, rollerblading. Wow. You mentioned walking paths. So I guess at every community, there are different types of activities, and I know, Brigitte, you could speak to what's going to be at Palm Desert, but Dan, just like in general, what types of things are you and Bonnie doing, or other of your neighbors doing?
Yeah, we walk every day. When we finish here, we'll probably go out and take our walk. We walk about a mile. There's a fitness center down the hall. Given the pandemic restrictions, there have been some limitations on some of those things in terms of social distancing and so on. We get out, we're in an area, this is not a physical thing associated with where we live, but we've recently taken up geocaching. I don't know if anybody's been involved in that, but a fun exercise for folks to do without being, in and among groups. But around here, walking is primarily our exercise, and that works for us.
Okay, great. Brigitte, would you want to speak to any of the things that you have at Avenida Palm Desert in particular? I know that it's similar to other communities. I know
Mhm.
you've got a picture in your background of a beautiful pool that's going
Yes.
to be at Avenida Palm Desert, and most communities have a pool. Any other things you'd like to mention?
Well, the concept is really about staying active and promoting that within our resident population. So, we have a full programming, enrichment programming in place. We'll have someone in charge of filling, activity calendar of all different kinds of things to get involved in. Physically, as far as physically, yes, the fitness center, our site will also have a separate area for yoga and dance. We will also have some walking paths, but we also are in an area that you can leave the property and rollerblade and bike and walk. Southern California, particular Palm Springs, it's sunny pretty much every day of the year. So you see a lot of people out in the community, outside the property. And there's lots of areas you can go, lots of parks and pickleball and golf, tennis in the area. So very active environment. We'll also have, other things such as clubs and social hours and educational talks and so on. So our program is called 5 to Thrive, and it really is meant to focus on active living and keeping people active in all different aspects of health and wellness. So we're looking forward to that, but that's a great question. And that's really the main key of our living model is the active adult, keeping everyone active and physically, mentally, spiritually, all that. So we're looking forward to implementing that. But that's a great question. And that's really a highlight of active adult living.
Thank you, Brigitte. That is
Mhm.
awesome. Thank you for sharing all of that. Dan, could you go back to that screen a couple before this that showed where all the properties are located for Avenida quickly? There you go. So there's Franklin, Texas, Lakewood, Colorado, Naperville, Illinois, the Palm Desert property, which we're here with today, and Germantown, Tennessee as well. So those are the communities that if you're interested, please reach out through this email that you received this invite. That'd be great. And everybody who joined today will be receiving, let's see if I can, the book, which I think there was also a screenshot, Dan, right before this too, that shows the book that you'll be receiving. This is a really insightful book. It goes through a lot of what Dan actually went through on his presentation today, but it also, lets you, like tag a page or make some notes and things that since it's your book to keep. And Dan's also, I failed to mention this, but Dan's got quite the history. He's an author of a number of other books. If you're interested, you can find them on Amazon. Dear Hippie, we met at Woodstock, and we didn't mention it, but Dan is a former law enforcement officer in the state of New York. So he had some some insight there. So that's a really great one. And anyway, we are so appreciative of you joining us today, Dan. And I can't see that there was any other questions. Yes. Oh, the presentation is recorded. Sorry about that. Yes, the presentation has been recorded, and we will make sure that everybody gets a copy of that too. So thanks again, Dan. And thank you everyone for joining us today. We really, really appreciate it.
Thank you, Kendall.
Yeah. Thanks,
Thanks,
everyone.
everybody.